Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Joseph Carroll. I write under the pen name J.R. Carroll. And for all of you that have watched my channel before, you can tell I am not in my office today. But today is a special day because I have just finished The Law by Jim Butcher, the 17.5 novella in the Dresden Files. And I couldn't help but get this up as soon as possible to get my thoughts out because, as you all know, if you've been on my channel, I'm a mega Dresden fan. I love all things Dresden. So this thing dropped at 4 o'clock in the morning and I had planned to just get up and go with it, but I actually slept in a little bit and started it around 6 o'clock this morning. And this is narrated, it's only audio at the moment, narrated by Jim himself. And it was pretty good for someone who is not a professional narrator. It was a little jarring sometimes when you got to see certain, or hear certain characters, and you're like, that's not what they sound like. That's not what they're supposed to sound like. But overall, did a fine job. Now, I'm going to try to keep this spoiler free as possible, but again, this is the newest Dresden Files, so there will be spoilers for things that have came before. But inside this story, especially since it just dropped a few hours ago, I'm going to try and not spoil really anything for you guys. This picks up pretty much immediately after Battlegrounds, and you see, Harry, is running the castle now. I mean, it's back to being his place, and immediately he gets a visit from a lady who tells him she needs help, and she's getting sued, and Dresden's like, what can I do? I'm not a lawyer. That'd be your best bet. Go jump on and find yourself a good lawyer. But she's basically telling him, I don't need a lawyer. I need a miracle. And she tells him basically, word on the street is that you can make miracles happen. And and when she said that, I'm like, oh no, So I feel bad for Harry because if you know Harry, he's damsel in distress, or helpless people, and she lays down, what her issue is, and it gets Harry all riled up. And of course, if you're a Dresden fan, you're sitting there, you're like, yeah, you're feeling the same way Harry is about all this. And so he starts going out, and we start meeting other people. Billy is right there with him. Billy's his sidekick. Bob, of course, Bob is there. And of course, any legal stuff, you assume that it's going to involve Johnny Marcone, and we get to see how the power dynamic is working now after the Battle of Chicago, and how all this how this is all sorting out, if knowing how it all ended there. But of course, it being Dresden, there's got to be some twists and some turns and some supernatural-esque stuff to it. But I will say that this is kind of a cool-off period as far as Dresden books go. And it had to be, right? Because, Battlegrounds was all gas, no brakes. pedal to the metal. And so I actually just went through the keyhole, which was kind of just a side story in the Dark Tower, and it was just like, all right, well, it's just more Dark Tower. There wasn't anything, special to it. And I would kind of say that for this, but knowing Jim, there's gonna be something in here that we really need to pay attention to. To me, it felt like one of his side stories, just longer. Because this is all audio, it's just under 3.5 hours. But so I mean that puts you, that probably puts you at like a quarter of a Dresden Files novel. And it being just kind of a old Harry style, where he kind of has to use his kind of PI skills. I'm kind of glad once we got rolling in the story, I started enjoying it more. Probably the last hour and a half was pretty enjoyable, because you're just like, you're back along the ride with Dresden, and you just kind of fall back into that. This is normal. This is, you're getting told a story by by one of your best friends. But I think most people are going to be happy, with the novella. Just as long as you're not going into this thinking this is going to be another, balls to the wall type situation. And I think it's going to set up well for those who listen to this and then go into the next Dresden book, because I assume the next Dresden book there's going to be some big action going, but I think we needed a cool off period. And I wouldn't be surprised if the next the next Dresden book is announced. I know Jim is doing a interview with the Dresden File podcast. So, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to announce the next book, but I wouldn't be surprised. So this has been just kind of my overview. No spoilers. It's just a feel good, different kind of story. Kind of slow the pace down from Battlegrounds, especially if you just finished Battlegrounds and then you came into this. It's kind of this cooling off period, but it also will kind of make you feel good. But thank you for stopping by. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.